Alright, today we're going old school, taking a look at things that are popular back in the 70s and the 80s. So let's start off with a rotary telephone. I don't know how many people out there are old enough to remember this. And when I was younger, this was the style of phone that we had. You put your finger in the corresponding number, move it around, and it took a long time just to dial a number. These kind of phones were introduced back in 1904 and became more common around 1919. They were in use until around the 70s when the touch-tone phones started coming out and phased these out. Again, it just took too long for people to... The dialing touch-tone was a lot easier. We see these around garage sales and flea markets here and there. We picked this one up for only $2. $2 can't go wrong. They generally have a decent resale, but the prices are all over the place. You go on eBay, and for this similar phone, I see some selling for $10, some going up to $20, $25, $30, $35. They're all over the place. I'm not sure if that's because of the brand. This is a Western Electric, I believe. It says on the receiver here. Not sure. I have to look into it a little bit more. If you see old phones, pick them up if it's only a couple bucks. The ones that are not black or actually have a higher value. If you see one that's red or yellow or some other color, they have a higher value and a better resale because the black ones are so common. So again, nice little thing we picked up for a couple bucks. I'm gonna keep it on my desk. I think it looks pretty cool, but value, say somewhere around between 10 and 25, somewhere in that ballpark. Okay, so next we're gonna take a look at something that when I first got my driving permit, my driver's license back when I was 16, this was around 1980 or so, we used to listen to music in cars on 8-tracks. So I bought a bunch of 8-tracks. I put an ad in on Craigslist saying I buy 8-tracks. Woman gave me a call saying she has them for sale. I bought this case which has 24 8-tracks in it. Some of them I pulled out. I'm already going to try to sell them on eBay. These are 3 Billy Joels and 1 Elton John. I have Simon and Garfunkel, which is kind of neat. Another Simon and Garfunkel, Neil Diamond, Bruce Springsteen, Born to Run. What I like is that the graphics on these 8-tracks are pretty clean, in pretty good shape. We have Bob Dylan's Greatest Hits. It's kind of nice. So 24 tapes and a case we picked up for only $10. We got a pretty good buy on it. Interesting thing about 8-tracks, they were created in 1964 by a guy by the name of Bill Lear. He led a consortium, a group of people to actually build and invented 8-tracks. Interesting thing about Bill Lear is that he then later on went on to found the Learjet Corporation. So the guy who did Learjet also did 8-tracks. Kind of neat. The resale on these it varies, of course, depending on the artist. If you have something by Pink Floyd or Led Zeppelin or Rush, you're gonna get a much higher price. You get like maybe $8, $9, $10 a tape in some cases, depending on which album it is. In general, though, you're probably looking at about $2, $3, $4 per tape. What the collectors do is they'll buy them, and then to listen to them, they'll change the padding underneath the tape. If you press down on it and doesn't bounce back, it means the padding has dried out, so you really can't play it. But if you open it up, you put a little padding in there, it only costs a quarter or so, put new padding in, you're good to go, and you have some great music. It's a real old school way of listening to music. So I'm gonna put these on eBay. I think I have 4 auctions going on right now for 8-tracks, and we'll see how they sell. The price we bought at, and we bought this and others at, you really can't go wrong. Okay, next we're going to take a look at something that goes back to the 70s. I think you all probably remember when VHS tapes came out. When VHS came out, Beta, a different format of tape, also came out. This is a tape of Raiders of the Lost Ark in Beta format. And the neat thing about it is it's sealed, which is great. We only paid a couple bucks for it, which is kind of nice. I'll get a resale on this. Thinking probably around $15 or so, 15 maybe up to 20 because it's sealed. There's a very limited number of collectors on these. I'll put it out there, see if it sells. If not, we'll just leave it up on auction for a while and see what happens. When these tapes first came out, they were released in 1975. In 1976, JVC then released the VHS format, which competed against it, and people mostly went towards the VHS tapes because VHS had longer recording times. These tapes only had, say, 1 to 2 hours of recording time. VHS, you can do either 4, 6, or 8 hours. So you can fit a lot more on the tape. So VHS took off, Beta died off. But kind of a neat little find for a couple bucks. Raiders of the Lost Ark, sealed, Beta version. Put it on eBay, we'll see what happens. And I'll update a later video, let you know what it's sold for. Okay. Also, around that same time when the VHS tapes were coming out, also something called laser discs came out. Laser discs are movies. It's almost like a really big CD. Nice reflective laser disc movies. Laser discs came out in 1978. They had a much higher quality than VHS or Beta, but also more expensive. So when they came out, they had some sales that did okay, but eventually VHS won out. Why? Because the cost was lower on VHS, and more importantly, VHS, you could record your own tapes. You could record TV programs. You could record your own tapes via camcorder. So VHS took off, and Laserdiscs never really did that well. There are still some collectors out there for them. They'll buy up these movies. We got these for $1 each. Normally they'll sell for between $5 and $10 each. So we have Apocalypse Now. We have James Bond, Man with the Golden Gun. Star Trek. Star Trek the Motion Picture. And last but not least, what I think is pretty cool, the Blues Brothers. We're on a mission from God. The cool thing about this is this version is sealed. So sealed Laserdisc of the Blues Brothers. For now, I think I'm going to hold on to these. I don't like selling something this large on eBay because then shipping it out becomes kind of a hassle. Down the road, I'll probably put it out at a flea market, see what we get for it. But kind of a neat little pickup. Only paid $1 each, so we did okay with these. Okay, last but not least, we have something. When I was younger, this is going back into the 60s, we used to sit around and watch movies on an 8mm projector. You hook the movie up to a reel and you project it onto a wall. This is actually it was the early 70s probably. Actually, this is a Apollo 11, Man on the Moon, in black and white. So with Apollo 11, it was 1969 when Buzz Aldrin, Neil Armstrong, and Michael Collins landed on the moon. This is the black and white footage of that landing. This is kind of neat. Again, pick this up for $1. So for $1, anytime I see something that has some history to it, take a chance on it. If it's not worth anything, nothing really lost, but it was worth $1 investment. This color version black and white version doesn't sell for much. This goes between $5 and $15 depending on the auction, but somewhere in that range. There's a color version of this exact same footage, and instead of saying BW, it'll say color here. That goes for about $15 to $30. So when we see these old 8mm, we pick them up. I picked up a couple others in the past. I picked up some old horror movies on 8mm, put them out, and they sold for $15 pretty quick. So kind of a neat little find. So that's all we have for today. We'll be back next week with a new video.